Now, while international soccer may not be our favorite subject right now, or it may be the hardest subject to talk about, local soccer here in Chicago has been interesting and kind of fun. First with the Chicago Red Stars getting all the way to the finals. And now our Chicago Fire have made a move. Paulie, what has the Fire done, our local soccer club here in Chicago? What move did they just make?
Well, I've always wanted to see a former Liverpool player play in the MLS for Chicago. There was Steven Gerrard, a legendary Liverpool captain, played for the LA Galaxy for a season, and you see, David Beckham, Wayne Rooney, there's been, Ibrahimovic, there's been greats from Europe that have come here to play towards the tail end of their career in MLS. And it's kind of shameful in a way that American fans just don't really totally appreciate that or don't really fully understand what greatness that they're seeing. But it was really neat to see that Xherdan Shaqiri, who formerly played with Liverpool, Stoke City, Bayern Munich, Lyon in France, made the transfer just back in January to play for the Chicago Fire. And he seems just genuinely excited to play for the Fire. And I'm telling you from experience, from actually seeing him many of his games with Liverpool on television, but also the first time I ever saw him play for Liverpool was actually with my own eyes when Liverpool toured in the summer of 2018. And this dude got a bicycle kick goal in an exhibition match against Manchester United. And he's just such an exciting player. I think he's listed at like 5'7", but I want to say he's shorter than that. But he's the type of dude that John Oliver, the comedian, was saying he's the type of guy that he'll probably uppercut you, pretty well, even though he's shorter than you, he's got a lot of strength on him, and he's a forward, he's a striker, a lot of speed, and just really just interesting playmaker and a lot of great enthusiasm. And while he never really found a permanent spot in the starting lineup with Liverpool, I think that speaks more to their talent level. I think he's going to be a regular for the Chicago Fire, and I think people are going to really enjoy watching him when he gets here. So I'm really excited. I mean, I've never been to a Chicago Fire game. I've always wanted to go, and now I think I pretty much have to, because I've always enjoyed watching Shaqiri play, and I think he's going to be, if we treat him well and he wants to stay here, I think he's going to be one of those guys that's going to be up there with, your Jose Abreu's or your, formerly Chris Bryant's or your Patrick Kane's or your DeMar DeRozan's, in terms of those marketable local all-stars that are just great to have play in this market.
Does he give them a legit shot of winning a MLS Cup?
Probably not. I don't think him alone. And I don't know the MLS enough to know where Chicago's lacking versus certain other teams. But I know that there are some strong clubs out there. New York City Football Club, who won last year's MLS Cup, is a favorite to repeat. Of course, the Portland Timbers, the Seattle Sounders, Orlando City, Atlanta United. Those are some strong clubs. Yeah, LA Galaxy, LA Football Club. So the Chicago Fire, I think, still have a little ways to go to really be in that conversation. But Shaqiri might add something to that. He might push them in that direction where maybe they can find ways to supplement his greatness or find other talents to really build around to help build that club. There was a time, in the early days of the MLS where the Chicago Fire were always one of the stronger teams in the league, when they won in 1998 and all around that, they were always one of the top clubs. Now the MLS has exploded, and for the better. I mean, it's such an exciting league. It's expanding. There's more enthusiasm. The talent level has definitely gotten better. It's able now to compete on the world stage a lot more than it did in its infancy. So I'm really happy to see that, and I'm really happy that a guy that I loved watching is now going to be in my hometown playing. I mean, I would have been happy to see Shaqiri playing for any other club in the MLS. So to have him in our backyard, I think is just really, really splendid. And I think anyone listening that's remotely interested in soccer or curious about it, you got to come out and see these guys play. You got to watch this dude play. It's so fun to see European talent want to play in the United States.
Yeah, and you could do it at Soldier Field. It's a wonderful time in the lakefront during the summer, during the hotter months of
Well,
the
it
year.
starts this week.
There
The
you go.
first game, I want to say, I think they're on the road this week, but the MLS season starts, I think either the weekend that you're listening to this or later on this week.
So we are right around the corner to spring, and it is a fun time to see that. And I mean, you talk about the explosion of the MLS. I mean, we've seen that the U.S. national team plays like Columbus and just how crazy that place gets now. If only the men's U.S. team could do anything near what the women's team, then we could really start talking. But at least
Well,
here locally, it'll be something to keep an eye on. You got something about the U.S. women's team?
I got the U.S. men's team. I got some bad news. Weston McKennie, who's been one of the stronger U.S. men's players during the World Cup qualifiers, actually fractured his foot in two places this past week playing for his club, Juventus, out in Italy during their Champions League match this week, I think against Villarreal. He is probably going to miss a significant amount of time, and that might put a damper on the U.S. men's qualifying chances. I think the last time I checked the standings, the U.S. men's team was second out of all the CONCACAF North American clubs. Crazy enough, Mike, can you guess which country is leading CONCACAF in the World Cup qualifiers right now?
I'm going to take a guess. Is it Costa Rica?
Nope.
It's not going to be Canada?
Yes, it is.
Okay, yeah, okay, that made sense. I couldn't have been Mexico because that would have been a little more on the nose if it wasn't the United States. Canada beat the United States, no?
Yes, they did.
Okay.
They did. It was about a month ago. I watched that match. They played it up in Canada in Hamilton, and it looked freezing cold up there. So, perhaps that was an advantage. Sometimes the United States likes to play that cold weather advantage against like Mexico when they go to like Columbus in December.
Yeah.
But yeah, it seemed like whatever's going on with this Canadian club, and I need to take a deeper dive into Canadian men's soccer, but they are gearing up to have a pretty strong team coming out of the CONCACAF. And we got to keep in mind too, in 2026, the World Cup is coming here. It's a joint bid amongst Canada, the United States, and Mexico. They're also going to expand the amount of teams that play in the World Cup. And the FIFA has not determined yet whether all three teams are going to have an automatic bid. But I would imagine with the expanded rosters and the fact that Mexico, the United States, and Canada are some of the stronger CONCACAF teams, that we should expect all three to be there in 2026. So I think, it's only a matter of time before we see a country that's not in Europe or South America win the World Cup. And it's nice to see that North America is starting to get into the conversation, because the likelihood is that Africa is going to produce the country that wins the World Cup that's not Europe or South America. So it's I think it's an exciting time to see the global sport even become more globalized.
And we hope you appreciated this soccer talk the last 20 minutes here on the show, because that is the last soccer talk we will have until I'm ready to yell about United States not making the World Cup. Thank you, Paulie, for giving us all the updated information seriously, and it's going to be fun to see what happens at Soldier Field. Let us know your thoughts about the Chicago Fire making this transaction. How will they be placed in MLS this upcoming season? Are you going to game? The season is starting in just a couple of days, so it should be fun for all that. Let us know. We're on Twitter at Sports Cubicle TV.